Hello and welcome everyone to the beautiful world of paragliding. Before we start, I would like you to tell me what do you think is paragliding? Well, if you think it is the thing which is called deltaplane, which you see right now, well, it's not. You're wrong. But don't worry, lots of people think the same. So the presentation will help you understand what is the real concept of paragliding. So what is paragliding? Paragliding is a fun, exciting, relatively easy way to fly. An inflatable wing and harness are used to experience this free form of flying. A key benefit over other forms of flight is the ability of the pilot being able to pick up and carry his glider on foot after his or her flight. But how does it work? In simplest term, a paraglider is an inflatable wing. It resembles a parachute, but its shape is elliptical rather than round. Wings are usually made up of ripstop nylon, which is a tear-proof and taut synthetic fabric. It's actually two layers of material sewn together with a gap between the two. Vertical fabric ribs support the gap, and in between each rib are cells. These dozens of cells work to trap air and inflate the canopy for gliding. The wing has a landing edge, which allows air to enter the cells. Experts agree the most wings are good for about 300 hours of paragliding, about 4 years, before they begin to stretch or weaken. Lines are the ridging cords attached to different areas of the underside of the wing. There are usually about 4 or 5 rows of lines. The least row of lines makes up the brakes, or control lines attached to the wing's trailing edge. These cords are streamed down and are secured in a branch on both sides of the pilot. The bunches of grouped lines are called risers, and they suspend the pilot below the canopy. The pilot can use the lines to control the glider. Manipulating the lines changes the direction of speed of the glider as it flies. The lines are made of synthetic materials like Kevlar or Dyneema. These types of material won't stretch or shrink, which would cause the glider to become unbalanced. Nylon is a popular choice for risers because of its strength and durability. To fly a paraglider properly, you must understand not only how the equipment works, but how the wind works as well. But first, perform a safety equipment check. Are you strapped in tight to your harness? Does the helmet fit snugly on your head? Is your canopy properly laid out, and are you properly attached to it? Of course, you can't start flying until you figure out how to get off the ground. We call this the launch. Face into the wind and run or walk forward. Pull on the wing, which will cause it to start filling with air. Soon the wing will transform from a piece of fabric of dragging behind you on the ground into an inflated canopy rising over your head. The term for inflating the wing while you are on the ground is called kiting. At this point, the wing is above you and catching some airflow. Use the brakes to retain control of the wing and do an overhead check to ensure the wing is fully inflated and no lines are tangled. Now it's time for the final phase. Run down your designated slope to work up to flying speed. Sometimes all you need here is a brisk walking pace. Your wing slowly rises and gently picks you up with force. You look down and your feet are no longer touching the ground. You are flying. But now what? How are you going to stay up in the air like a hang glider? A paraglider works with airflow to create a lift. Air flows over both the top and the bottom of the glider and meets at the edge. Aerodynamics predict that the pressure on the bottom of the glider is higher than the top of the glider. This creates lift upwards. One of the most desirable things about paragliding is that in the right conditions you can stay aloft for hours at a time. Traveling for miles, paragliders look for rising air in order to catch the current that will keep them aloft for the longest time possible. There are 3 basic types of rising air. Thermals. They are the columns of the hot air that rise from the ground as the sun heats air near the ground. The air expands and rises. Paragliding pilots know they can find thermal columns near areas like asphalt parking lots or dark rocky terrain. If you notice the large birds soaring around in the sky without flapping their wings, thermal activity is likely. Once a pilot finds a thermal column, he or she can circle within it until reaching a desired altitude. Ridge lift occurs when the wind blows against mountains or hills. When wind hits the mountains, it moves upwards, forming a band of lift along the slope. Although ridge lift doesn't reach much higher than the mountain or ridge that created it, ridge lift can last for miles, for example along the mountain chain. Wave lift. It's not like a ridge lift. It also occurs when the wind blows against the mountain. However, wave lift happens on the downwind side of the mountain and can go much higher than the peak. A glider can reach altitudes of more than 35,000 feet or 10,688 meters using oxygen by utilizing wave lift. It can be a very dangerous form of lift, as it is often caused by very strong winds in the upper atmosphere. Wait, but is it possible to fly without mountains? Of course it is. Paragliding, also known as paramotoring, is a form of ultralight aviation where a pilot wears a motor on his back, a paramotor, which provides enough thrust to take off using an adapted paraglider or paramotor wing. It can be launched in still air and on level ground by the pilot alone. No assistance is required.